All right, so glad to have you back. It's still your show, the iBrand Daybreak Show. And of course, we have our guest who is still seated here to give us his perspective on the matter. But then the Supreme Court on Wednesday temporarily halted the move by the federal government through the Central Bank of Nigeria to ban the use of the old Naira notes from February 10, 2023. A 7-member panel led by Justice John Okoro halted the federal government's plan in a ruling in an ex parte application brought by 3 northern states of Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara. This judgment is now generating reactions. So, sir, what's your view as regards the reactions? Of course, you started with that conversation before we moved into the news headline stories on the newspaper. But then, what's your reaction? What's your take on the reactions from the general public as regards this judgment? Is there any possibility that the CBN might go back to what they've said as the directive given for the deadline?
Absolutely. You should expect mixed reaction, because while some are applauding that decision, some are saying no, the CBN should not go back, and technical issues have been introduced. But when you look at it at the macro level, the trade and payment disruptions that has even been alluded to by the World Bank and IMF warning us, then you must agree that there should be a prompt response to ensuring that the state, and I'm talking of Nigeria now, does not slip into anarchy. Because between the time this crisis began and now, you can talk about number of banking facilities that have been damaged by the injury, the different kinds of crashes, the hardship in the land, the image damage to the nation and things like that, and which is contrary to the provisions of the Constitution. Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says that the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. So you must do everything. Again, also, even when you are implementing policies, to ensure security and welfare. And right now, it appears that the nation may be in a state of chaos. It may not be amplified because we are used to so many incidences like this from the past. But ideally speaking, it's a policy, perhaps good, that has not been appropriately implemented. And that implementation is being tested by the consequences. And like a wise man rightly said, that you may choose your actions, but definitely not the consequences of your actions. So there are some actions that will, so when you talk about change of the currency design, the UK did it recently after the passage of the Queen, and the full implementation will not come until 2024. So the implementation is as important as the policy you are implementing. So here we are, and this has given credence perhaps to the perception of some that policy was designed and implemented for political reasons, because the elections are a few days away now. So, and the reasons given for that was to mop up excess liquidity in the society, which is a very beautiful monetary approach. But if you are mopping up about 2 trillion naira and you are releasing about 800 billion to the society, what happens? Because the reality now, even though the central bank claims to be releasing money to banks, is that some banks have even closed down because they don't have the money to give out. Maybe some have it or not. So who is lying? So we have scarcity of the new notes, even the old notes that citizens could still have been spending. You asked them to bring everything back, they took everything back to you, and suddenly the new ones are not available. And don't also forget, we have this issue of restricted paid, exactly, that the CBN is saying you can draw 20,000 across the counter, but sincerely speaking, what many citizens have been able to draw is 5,000 naira. I mean, at the practical level.
So are we saying, sir, are we saying that it's an issue of implementation, or they are not giving the right information. Somebody is not giving the right information to the public, because it's one thing to say, yes, we want to mop up fund. It's another thing to say monies will be made available. But upon getting to the counter, you cannot get the available amount you need. So where is the disconnect coming from here? Is it that the banks are not, implementing what the CBN issues as a directive, or what the CBN issues as a directive is not, as exactly what we can see as the reality?
Okay, George, let me come in there. Should we really blame the CBN? Because we have seen videos online, news online, where some bank managers are halting the new note, they are holding it. Like, you see millions of these new Naira notes, they're just hiding it in their safes in the bank. Are you sure the problem is really from the CBN, or it's from the banks?
That's the issue.
Most of these banks are hiding the money, making the masses to suffer for it.
By the grace of God, I served in the legal unit of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Okay.
And I know that the CBN has bank examination department, banking supervision department. So, a project does not fail midway. Project fails ab initio when you are conceiving. Because if you are proactive in your approach to project management, you envisage
likely
when you are traveling by air, before you ascend into the air, you are given the safety instructions, not because the pilot expects to crash that aircraft, but should any emergency arise, these are what you need to do. These are procedures. The CBN is expected to have monitored the value chain, the ecosystem of implementing that policy, and envisage the stumbling blocks. You see, and if we have come to the point where commercial banks do not obey instructions from CBN, you also blame CBN. And that is the problem in this country. The president and commander-in-chief will come out, give instruction to service chiefs, hey, I don't want kidnapping again, and the next thing is kidnapping. We have systemic failure issue in our hands. So am I the one to now ensure commercial banks carry out the instruction of central bank? You see, so, and that's why you have what we call government. We have MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies that are expected to support the government in implementing their policies. And the citizens are there. The citizens did their own, they returned their money. And again, if indeed you are targeting kidnappers, bandits were seen in videos brandishing these new notes. So did Gideon give to them? Permit me to bring in the issue of fuel scarcity. Some agencies of the government are coming out to say the smugglers are the ones responsible. So is it my business to go and stop smugglers at the border of Niger Republic or border of Cameroon? Is it the business of Gideon Logo? Why do we have the customs service? Why do we have the immigration? So, you see, you don't excel in life via excuses. You excel through performance. Look at the hardship in the land now. Okay, which government will bear the blame now? Maybe Gideon Logo will be blamed for those who are fighting in Ibadan. You need to know what people are going through. Yesterday, I wanted to buy plantain for my daddy, my father-in-law. And I went to the woman that I patronized, and she didn't have plantain. And I asked her why. No cash to go to the market. Because we are talking about cashless economy, which this system may be promoting. Where is the infrastructural backup? I mean, as I speak to you now, in my office, there hasn't been electricity for about 24 hours now. So now, you need to struggle for fuel to power your generator at home, struggle for fuel to power your generator in the office, struggle to even get cash. Okay, how many? In fact, in some filling stations, they stopped accepting POS payments.
Oh yeah, that's
Yes.
true.
So
That's true.
before you leap, you observe vigilantly, you monitor. And there is a proverb that it's better to measure 10 times and cut once than to measure once and cut 10 times. Because when you are cutting 10 times, you're actually wasting effort. So if this policy was designed to be vindictive, I believe it has failed. if it was also planned for a good purpose, it has failed in implementation, because I'm not the one painting the picture of the riots across the country. The Kaduna state government has cried out about food shortage in Kaduna because of the fuel crisis and the cash crisis. So these three state governments went to the Supreme Court. Kaduna, Zamfara, and Kogi State. Yes. And Rivers State is seeking to join. The matter is still in court. Let me explain that. An interim injunction is a temporary injunction. That, okay, this matter is before us. Yes. While we are considering it, please stop this action so that you don't jeopardize the essence of even coming to court at all. So if the CBN decides, tomorrow is 10th of February, decides not to obey the Supreme Court. But I was trying to explain the technicalities. Central Bank is not a party to that suit before the Supreme Court, because constitutionally speaking, the state government can only go directly to Supreme Court in a matter against the Federation. If you were to focus on CBN, they should have gone to the Federal High Court. So that was a smart move. But now, who is instructing the central bank to ask? When Emefiele was going to extend the time for the old Naira being legal tender, yes, from 31st of January to 10th of February, he went to Daura, the president, to get the directive. And that directive was ordered. So now, if the Supreme Court tells the federal government, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari, that you cannot implement this regulation, all right, that's what we call vicarious liability. So the federal government and the president now is vicariously liable for the actions of the central bank. And that is why the president already called for a meeting between the governor of CBN, the attorney general of the federation. So what the attorney general is doing now is to raise the issue of jurisdiction, that has Supreme Court jurisdiction in matter concerning CBN. But these are technical issues. The people are suffering. People are suffering. The state is in a harsh condition. Elections are coming. So if
what could be done now in this instance to avert such kind of occurrence from happening in the future, where they put up a policy where in the middle of it the policy fails? What should be done in this instance to avoid such occurrence from happening in the future? Because we're still going to have such kind of occurrence again, just as you said, that happened before.
By choice. If you want it.
But let's just let him talk about what we can do to avert what we are actually going through now. Leave the future for now.
A wise man said there are two ways to live: by default or by strategy. When you live by strategy, you plan. Strategy is long-term plan for success. I just mentioned it now. We don't have the infrastructural support. Maybe in China, you can transfer money to Arochukwu from Maiduguri and it will land. Even in Lagos, sometimes for those of you who do internet banking, I don't do it. Sometimes you transfer and the money does not land. You have to go to court, to the bank, you go and get court order and things. Yes. We need reliable infrastructure. We need electricity. I mean, at the time to fight insecurity, there was a suggestion, let's install CCTV. Yes. What do you use to power CCTV? Electricity. What will it cost Nigeria to have electricity? Strategic leadership. I read a report recently. We have fled enough gas in this nation to probably provide electricity for West Africa. So we need good governance. And when these things are, I mean, I told some friends that I don't use ATM card in Nigeria, and they said I'm a bushman. I said, yes, I'd rather be a bushman. I use my ATM card when I travel abroad. I'm in New York or somewhere in the US, I need, but not here, because I don't have money to lose. I don't want to go and shout in a banking hall and things like that. We must make life simple. We are talking of a cashless economy. My customer in the Podo market in Ikeja, that I buy garuba, that I buy tomato, pepper, and onions from. You know, she's a friend of the family. Does not have a POS. So I go to Garuba today. Garuba, and give me pepper and tomato. Or my wife goes there, 2,000 naira. Maybe because he knows us, we walk away with it. Can he do that for us 5 times?
No.
It's not possible.
No.
That's what we are saying. Businesses are closing down now. No. And now, let's come to the big one. Now we are not even talking about dollar. We are talking about Naira being expensive. I told someone to help get about 50,000 Naira cash for me. He paid 6,000 Naira to the POS operator that made the money available. You see, so you have created an environment of crisis, because the next thing I expect to hear now is that the citizens also are not supporting. No. When you talk to an American will raise his heart to deal with you if you insult America. Why? Because there are benefits coming from the system to him or her.
Yes.
We have precedents in law. An American was kidnapped in a neighboring country and brought into Nigeria. The American government breached diplomatic protocols to rescue that man and took away, that's the slang we use, took away some of the kidnappers. That is a good system. You know, so before a CBN governor whom I respect so much would just come out and implement a policy. In fact, when he was about to implement that policy, the Minister of Finance claimed not to be aware.
Yes.
That's another issue.
So that means there is no synergy within the governance system.
So could that...
someone now came out to say the president was deceived by choice. You are the presiding officer. You can invite anybody. You can call for a stakeholders meeting. You use our tax money to host that meeting. I mean, we have worked. I just told you when I was in Central Bank legal unit, every Monday we must meet with Mr. V.A. Moore, our director then. Brilliant man. That what happened, this. And so even I was just about 23 years of age then. I brought suggestions to the table that we implemented and enhanced the performance in the department and in the bank as a whole. And I believe they still operate that template. So that is leadership. In consultancy, you talk about recommendations. You can come to me, make recommendations. You cannot force me to implement.
But some quarters are saying that in view of that policy, the CBN governor does not necessarily need to get the consent of the Minister of Finance.
But now, we are all in a mess.
Yes.
You know the funny thing? In public relations, you speak about economic environment. You see, when investors at the beginning of the year will sit down to define and identify countries they will invest in foreign direct investments, they profile your environment. So when you come to Nigeria in the boardroom and you look at the characteristics, you consider security, you consider monetary, fiscal policies, you know, tax regimes and everything, you tell your fellow investors that we need to put this on hold. And you look at a Rwanda where you can register your company, get your tax identification number, keep running within 24 hours or 48 hours, then you want to go there. Or as against a country where it takes you 9 months, enough to born a child, to get your NIN number. You see, these are issues. We have spoken about ease of doing business in this country, but when it comes to implementation, what do? Things are difficult. To renew your passport, trouble.
It's difficult.
This one, trouble. That one, trouble. And these troubles are man-made. They are man-made. You see? Intentional, perhaps. And like I said earlier, and that's a guiding principle for me in life, you may choose your action. You may have a choice over your actions, but not over the consequences of your action. You do the right thing, you get the right result. You do the wrong thing, you end up with the wrong result. You know, like I tell young men, you may want fast money, and you have it, you enjoy it, you end up like hush puppy. It's a very simple thing. Somewhere along the line, it must end somewhere. So that's why, and I love your position on being proactive. Look at all these experiences then, and it's so easy now. You don't need to travel to South Korea to understand how they operate there. On your phone, Google, okay, we want to change the design of the Naira note. What did the UK do recently to achieve this? When was the last time America did it? You know, that is the power of knowledge. You don't just wake up and implement. So I'll just wake up. I know my wife has an appointment to be at the embassy by 10 a.m. You know, let's be generous. Usually it's around 5 or 6. By 10 a.m., my children need to get to school and they have a very important exam that morning by 8 a.m. So I call a bricklayer to block the main door to the house because I want to do renovation. You see, so by 12, when I woke up, I'm complaining. My wife got somebody to remove the window. Why won't she remove the window? Why? I should have made alternative arrangement. It's either I move them to an hotel from where they can move to go and engage their businesses, or I tell the bricklayer to come back at the weekend when you know. So that is strategy. But when you live by default, the best way I can explain it is what the elders say, that to a man whose only tool is a hammer, every problem is like a nail. You see, and you don't cut off your head because you have headache, and that appears. And may I say this just to help my country and to provide solution. I think majority of the things we embark on in this nation, they are just vindictive, fighting one another, whether at the ethnic level or religious level, and it takes nobody nowhere. Please go and sit down. Look at how the UAE became structured to be an automated prosperity environment. Look at what Lee Kuan Yew came to Nigeria, came to some West African leaders. Singapore left Malaysia in 1965. It's one of the best places to live and work today. What did Lee Kuan Yew, what did he do? I have studied the magic of transforming a third world country into a first world country. There's a book on it, that Lee Kuan Yew. You see, our ministers, our DGs and all of them, they are well paid, I assume. So they can, if they cannot read, they get people working with them. Please go and study this aspect for me. And I'm saying this with all due respect. Gone are the days that we lead like typical African time, that anything I say you do. No. 1983 is different from 2023. Somebody was asking recently, and what about if they annul the election like 1993? 1993 is not 2023. I hope some are not even thinking about it. You can see the ordinary money swap. Guys are really embarking on emotional ventilation everywhere.
Some quarters are even saying that maybe because of the fact that he didn't win the primaries, Emefiele, was why he came up with this hasty policy without looking at the long run effect.
I won't hold brief for Emefiele. You know, he's the central bank governor. I respect him so much, but he's answerable to President Muhammadu Buhari. You see, there is something about leadership. You see, in the Garden of Eden, God said to Adam, don't touch the fruit from this tree. Whether Adam told his wife or not, I don't know. And the wife listened to a third party and brought that fruit to the husband to eat, who did not ask a question, and ate it and brought trouble. They lost their home, lost their glory and everything. When God came to the garden, God did not exonerate Adam. He started the judgment from Adam. He judged all of them. So that is leadership.
In going forward now, what do we do? Finally, we just have less than a minute.
In going forward, the primary purpose of government is the security and the welfare of the people. God has deposited enough resources in Nigeria for us to work for just 3 days in a week. Go and study how Libya was under Gaddafi.
We don't have much time.
You see, so please, our leaders, let people rejoice in this land. And the citizens, just calm down. Don't let anybody push you under depression. You see, life is in phases. If there is a government that favors you, rejoice. If there is one that does not favor you, that will go. So we are in a movement. It shall be well with Nigeria.
Yeah.
We are blessed.
Thank you very much for your humble
Mr.
time.
Jide.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jide, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless Nigeria.
All right, that was Mr. Jide Ologun, the legal practitioner, and also giving us his perspective on the subject matter we're looking at, the CBN's policy. And of course, we are due for another break now, and when we return, the program continues shortly. Please do stay with us.